This is also a time of change for my family.
The procession was already moving when a furious voice shattered the discipline of the royal formation. Catherine's composure broke. Meghan refused to retreat. Then King Charles raised one hand and issued an order almost without precedent. Stop the state procession immediately. Music died, footsteps froze, and before the watching crowd understood what had happened, a private family wound had become a crisis for the crown. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles knew that every second now carried danger. The state procession, a formal public journey in which senior royals represent the monarchy, had been timed to the minute, because even a small disruption could signal weakness before the nation. That morning, Queen Camilla, Prince William, his wife, and every senior participant had rehearsed each entrance and position. The Queen watched for any fracture. The crown, meaning the sovereign and the institution acting in his name, depended on that discipline to project calm, when the family itself was anything but calm. Meghan had entered under conditions negotiated during tense private conversations. She could attend, but she would watch from a designated position rather than join the central formation. The Duchess saw the distinction as a calculated humiliation. As the party began moving, she crossed the agreed boundary, faced Catherine, and accused her of helping create an arrangement designed to diminish her. The words turned personal. Tears filled the princess's eyes before the monarch's command cut through everything. Stop the procession. William moved instantly toward his wife. He spoke softly, but she turned away, desperate to hide how deeply the accusation had struck. Harry reached for Meghan at the same moment, torn between protecting her and understanding the disaster unfolding around them. She pulled back. To retreat now, she believed, would look like an admission of guilt. Charles fixed his gaze on the Duchess and made his judgment unmistakable. No relative, guest, or grievance would turn a state occasion into a personal battlefield. A senior equerry, the experienced royal officer responsible for assisting the sovereign, took the ceremonial schedule from his hand. The king ordered Catherine escorted through the side entrance and directed that the Sussexes be separated from the main party. Catherine gripped William's sleeve before stepping away. He felt her fingers trembling, and controlled fury replaced the shock in his face. Yet the outburst was not the only reason Charles had acted so quickly. A warning delivered that morning had suggested Meghan planned to challenge her assigned position. To understand why one accusation could stop the machinery of monarchy, the wounds carried by these 5 people must now be exposed. Behind the uniforms, titles, and rehearsed expressions stood 5 people carrying 5 different versions of the same family history. Charles feared losing control of the monarchy. Catherine feared becoming a target again. William saw an attack on his wife. Harry saw another closed palace door. Meghan saw proof that she would never be accepted. Their collision was not created in a single outburst. It had been waiting for years. Charles viewed the halted procession as more than an embarrassing family disturbance. The monarchy, the institution headed by the reigning king or queen, depended on stability, especially when public confidence was already under pressure. As a father, he feared losing Harry again. As sovereign, meaning the person occupying the throne, he could not allow that fear to weaken his authority. The king had personally approved his younger son's attendance, hoping one invitation might reopen a path toward reconciliation. Instead, that fragile path now appeared shattered. Catherine felt the accusation more deeply than anyone understood. After weeks of preparation, her central position beside William represented continuity and the monarchy's future, not victory over another woman. Inside a private antechamber, a small waiting room beside the main ceremonial chamber, she admitted that Meghan had attacked her character rather than her rank. The princess had approved no seating or formation decision. William placed both hands against the back of a chair, containing his fury because an angry confrontation would only deepen his wife's pain. The prince moved closer, spoke gently, and chose her well-being over immediate revenge. Harry faced a different kind of agony. Once separated from the main party, he asked Meghan why she had confronted Catherine before the procession. The Duke, a royal title traditionally granted to senior male members of the family, expected regret. Instead, his wife insisted that silence would have meant accepting public humiliation. Meghan believed the designated position had been created to display her diminished status. Harry understood her anger, yet he could not escape the memory of Catherine turning away in tears. Camilla entered Charles's private room, carrying the briefing note delivered that morning. The documented warning stated that Meghan might demand a last-minute change to the order of precedence, the formal ranking that determines where royal figures stand or move, if she felt visibly excluded. The Queen Consort reminded him that the danger had been known before the ceremony. Charles stared at the page, wounded by Harry's failure to prevent the confrontation, and disturbed by how accurately the warning had predicted it. Harry finally lowered his voice and told Meghan that Catherine had been crying. For one brief moment, the Duchess looked shaken. Then she answered that the true injury had begun long before that morning. Her words pointed back 3 days, to a private rehearsal where one sentence had transformed hurt into defiance. The procession had stopped before the world, but its real beginning waited inside that locked rehearsal room. 3 days before the procession, there had been no shouting and no tears. Only a table, a printed formation chart, and one devastating line, delivered with bureaucratic calm. Meghan was shown where she would stand. Catherine was shown where she would lead. Harry immediately sensed the danger. What followed inside that rehearsal room became the point of no return, because Meghan left believing the palace had quietly staged her public rejection. Tension filled St. James's Palace from the moment the final rehearsal began. The historic royal residence regularly hosts official planning and ceremonial business, making it the place where private decisions can shape public appearances. The Lord Chamberlain's team, the officials responsible for organizing major royal ceremonies, placed a formation chart on the table. Charles and Camilla would lead, with William and Catherine following. Harry and his wife were assigned a separate arrival point and an observation position outside the central group. Camilla studied the arrangement without objection. The Queen Consort understood that the formation reflected working royal responsibilities, meaning duties performed officially on behalf of the monarch, rather than family closeness. William nevertheless asked the officials to explain the distinction carefully and respectfully. Catherine remained silent beside him, already sensing that even neutral language could reopen years of resentment. One sentence destroyed that caution. A protocol secretary looked toward Meghan and said, "This position reflects service, not family closeness." Protocol meant the formal rules governing rank and conduct during official events, but the explanation offered no comfort. The Duchess pushed the chart away and demanded to know whether Catherine had approved it. The princess answered that she had not created the plan and would never use a state ceremony to settle private grievances. Meghan heard evasion instead of reassurance. Harry urged her to leave with him before the exchange became impossible to repair, but his wife remained seated. She looked directly at Catherine and declared that she would not allow palace rules to disguise personal hostility. The Duke repeated his request more firmly. Still, Meghan refused to move. A documented account prepared immediately after the rehearsal recorded what happened next. Meghan requested a position closer to Charles, arguing that physical distance would be interpreted publicly as rejection. When officials denied the change, she warned that she might address the exclusion herself during the event. The king learned of that warning through a private conversation with William, yet he refused to withdraw the invitation. He feared such a decision would destroy his last chance of repairing his bond with Harry. Silence remained after everyone departed. Catherine straightened the discarded chart and quietly told William that Meghan had already decided who must carry the blame. The prince tried to reassure her, but neither truly believed the danger had passed. That fear became reality during the procession. Now, behind closed doors, Charles was about to force every buried grievance into the open. The palace doors closed, but the conflict did not. Charles entered the private chamber, with the procession still suspended, and demanded an explanation. Meghan refused to apologize for speaking out. William refused to let Catherine become the family's scapegoat. Harry tried to intervene, only to discover that neither side trusted him to be neutral. Then Catherine walked into the room, and the argument changed from ceremonial defiance to personal heartbreak. Charles summoned Harry and Meghan into a private reception chamber, with William already waiting. The room, normally used for confidential meetings before formal events, offered protection from the press, but no escape from accountability. No junior aides or communications officers were allowed inside. Camilla remained in the adjoining room with Catherine, urging her to rest while the confrontation unfolded. Charles spoke first. The king said he had halted the procession to defend Catherine's well-being and protect the dignity of the crown. A state occasion belonged to the nation, he warned, not to any relative seeking to settle a private grievance. He then looked toward Meghan and demanded to know why she had chosen that moment to challenge the arrangement. Meghan refused to retreat. The Duchess insisted that her distant position had been designed to make the family's rejection publicly visible. William answered that his wife had neither written the protocol nor approved the formation. The prince demanded that the accusation against Catherine be withdrawn immediately. Harry asked his brother to lower his voice, but the future king snapped that silence had already caused enough damage. The Duke recoiled, hearing condemnation not only of Meghan, but of his own failure to stop her. Catherine entered before Camilla could persuade her otherwise. The princess fought back fresh tears and faced Meghan directly. She accepted that palace decisions could feel cruel, but disagreement never justified turning her into a target. The queen consort followed and remained close, knowing Catherine had entered not because she felt strong, but because she refused to let others speak for her. Meghan reached into her folder and produced a copied rehearsal account, a written record detailing what had been decided during the planning meeting. She pointed to a handwritten annotation reading, CP Office, and declared that it proved Catherine's staff had requested greater distance between them. William demanded the page. Charles examined it once, then again, and his expression changed. The initials did not mean Catherine's private office. They referred to the ceremonial planning office, the administrative team responsible for organizing positions and timing. Meghan stared at the words in silence, as the assumption behind her accusation collapsed. Catherine wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. She told the Duchess that a mistake on paper could be corrected, but the humiliation inflicted before the procession could not simply disappear. Charles now faced a brutal choice: resume with the family appearing united, or remove Harry and Meghan before the world. Truth had emerged, but it could not make that decision for him. For several minutes, Charles said nothing. Outside, thousands waited for music that did not return, while every second of silence deepened the crisis. On the table lay the schedule, the mistaken annotation, and the future of his fractured family. The king could protect Harry from another public rejection, or he could protect Catherine from being forced back beside the person who had reduced her to tears. He could not do both. Charles alone could restart, shorten, reroute, or cancel the procession. Security officers warned that the suspended movement was creating confusion outside, where crowded barriers and an unexplained delay could quickly become a safety problem. The ceremony mattered because it represented national order. Yet the monarch's decision also mattered as a father, because any punishment imposed on Harry could destroy what remained of their relationship. The Lord Chamberlain entered with three choices. Charles could restore the original formation, continue without Harry and Meghan, or abandon the ceremonial route completely. Cancelling would protect the family from immediate scrutiny, but make the outburst appear powerful enough to defeat the crown. Restoring everyone would preserve the planned appearance, yet it would force Catherine to stand beside the woman who had publicly reduced her to tears. Charles read the incident account twice. The written record summarized the confrontation, the mistaken initials, and the immediate reactions of those present. He removed his glasses, placed them carefully beside the pages, and admitted to Camilla that he feared losing his younger son. The Queen Consort answered without hesitation. Forcing Catherine to continue beside Meghan would make the princess pay for an attack she had neither begun nor deserved. Camilla urged him to separate his love as a father from his responsibility as sovereign. William issued no threat. He did not need to. The prince's silence made it clear that he would follow Catherine wherever she chose to go, even if that meant the heir, the royal next in line to the throne, and his wife disappearing from the procession. Charles understood the danger. Protecting Harry at Catherine's expense could fracture his bond with William and weaken the future monarchy. The decision came with chilling calm. Charles signed a written directive, an official instruction carrying the monarch's authority. The procession would resume after a shortened delay. Catherine would retain her central position, while Harry and Meghan would leave through a private exit. The king also ordered an internal review, a confidential investigation conducted within the royal household, to determine how the incomplete chart had reached the Duchess. Charles personally delivered the decision. Harry's face tightened, but he did not argue. The Duke asked whether his father understood what another public exclusion would mean for them. The sovereign answered that he did. Those words followed Harry down the corridor as Meghan walked beside him. The crown had chosen order, but the emotional cost of that choice was already spreading through the family. The music finally returned, yet the procession no longer felt triumphant. Catherine stepped forward with reddened eyes and a composure held together by sheer resolve. William remained close enough to steady her without touching her. Charles carried the expression of a monarch who had preserved the ceremony, but wounded his son. Elsewhere inside the palace, Harry watched the gates close and understood that the family had continued without him. Palace staff moved quickly to recover the lost time. They shortened the official route and described the interruption as an unexpected ceremonial delay, a neutral phrase intended to protect the family while preventing public confusion. Every senior royal resumed position under intense scrutiny. The procession still mattered because thousands had gathered to witness national stability. Yet everyone inside the formation knew that the calm now depended upon Catherine hiding her pain. Catherine paused before returning and told William that she could complete the engagement. The princess feared that leaving would allow Meghan's outburst, rather than years of public service, to define the day. William asked whether she was certain. When his wife nodded, the prince adjusted the clasp on her ceremonial coat with trembling fingers. His gentle movement concealed the anger he could not safely express before the waiting crowd. Harry and Meghan left through a private corridor before the procession restarted. Officials escorted them to a waiting vehicle, removing any risk of another confrontation along the route. The Duke stared back toward the palace without speaking. Meghan tried to explain that years of rejection had driven her beyond restraint, but her husband answered that Catherine's tears had changed the meaning of everything. The Duchess fell silent as the gates closed behind them. Charles completed the route, but duty brought him no relief. After returning inside, the king instructed his private secretary, the senior official who manages the monarch's work and confidential decisions, to suspend future ceremonial invitations involving Harry and Meghan. Their participation could only resume after written assurances of conduct had been agreed upon. It was not exile, yet it marked the sharpest boundary he had imposed since reconciliation talks began. The internal review soon delivered another blow. Investigators established through the original planning record that the rehearsal chart had been copied before its explanatory legend was attached. That legend, the small guide defining initials and symbols, would have identified CP as the Ceremonial Planning Office. 2 missing words could have prevented the entire misunderstanding. Charles closed the file when the finding reached him. He whispered that the confrontation had been built upon 2 letters, feeling relief that Catherine had been cleared, and devastation that nobody had paused to ask what those letters meant. One possibility remained. Catherine believed permanent estrangement might still be avoided, but no official could achieve it. After the crowds disappeared and the palace grew quiet, she agreed to meet Meghan alone. No advisors, no husbands, no protection from the truth. There were no aides in the room, no husbands waiting beside them, and no ceremonial chart on the table. Catherine entered first. Meghan arrived moments later and closed the door herself. For the first time since the procession stopped, neither woman could hide behind protocol or another person's anger. What followed was not an easy reconciliation. It was something rarer inside royal life, a direct admission of harm, spoken without an audience. Catherine had requested the meeting after learning how the missing chart legend had shaped Meghan's assumption. She refused to let an administrative error become an excuse for a personal attack. A confidential written account, later approved by both women, recorded the substance of their conversation, preserving what happened without placing officials inside the room. The meeting mattered because their conflict had already stopped a state ceremony and threatened the relationship between 2 brothers. Meghan accepted only after Harry confronted her inside their departing car. The Duke told his wife that their marriage could not move forward, as though Catherine's tears were merely collateral damage. His words forced her to consider impact rather than intention. She could continue defending why she felt wounded, but Harry made clear that pain did not erase responsibility for passing that wound to someone else. Catherine spoke first and did not soften the truth. The princess told Meghan that she had been humiliated during an official duty and falsely blamed for a decision she never made. Her voice never rose. That restraint made every word heavier, because the Duchess could no longer dismiss the response as another angry palace confrontation. Meghan admitted that years of resentment had shaped what she believed she saw on the rehearsal chart. She had entered the procession expecting rejection, so the ambiguous initials appeared to confirm everything she already feared. The Duchess insisted that palace protocol could feel cold and dehumanizing. Catherine acknowledged that truth, but she refused to carry responsibility for every painful choice made by the institution. Silence changed the meeting. Meghan finally apologized for confronting Catherine publicly and allowing her anger to become personal. She did not withdraw her wider criticism of royal life, yet she accepted that the princess had been wrongly targeted. Catherine accepted the apology without pretending that trust had suddenly returned. Forgiveness, she warned, was not the same as restored confidence. Catherine then set a firm boundary. Neither woman would appear beside the other at another official event until trust had been rebuilt privately. Meghan accepted the condition without argument. Meghan reached the door before Catherine spoke again. She hoped neither of them would ever allow the institution to speak through their private wounds. The Duchess stopped, nodded, and left without defending herself. Their personal battle had ended. Outside, however, one image of Catherine returning with tearful eyes had already reached millions, and the world was preparing a far harsher verdict. By evening, the procession itself had become secondary. One image dominated every front page: Catherine returning to the route with shining eyes, William half a step behind her, and Charles facing forward beneath the weight of his decision. The photograph required no palace explanation. To supporters, it represented courage. To critics, it exposed a family trapped by performance. To everyone, It confirmed that something deeply painful had happened behind the gates. Broadcasters interrupted scheduled programs and began reconstructing the unexplained halt minute by minute. Commentators compared the original ceremonial timetable, the official schedule controlling the movement and timing of the procession, with the actual delay. They also noted that Harry and Meghan had vanished before the route resumed. Their absence transformed a family confrontation into a national mystery, because the public could see the consequences without hearing what had caused them. Charles authorized a concise palace statement before speculation became uncontrollable. The official message confirmed that a private family disagreement had paused the route, and that the king permitted it to continue, after ensuring every participant's well-being. It named no guilty party, yet its careful language confirmed that the interruption had been personal, not mechanical or security-related. One headline captured the crisis. The next morning, a national newspaper placed Catherine's tearful return across its front page beneath 6 words: "The crown stopped, then she walked on." The image became more powerful than any official explanation. It showed the princess continuing, despite visible pain, while William remained close enough to protect her without drawing attention away from her duty. Crowds gathered near Buckingham Palace's Victoria Memorial, the public monument standing outside the monarch's main London residence. Several people left handwritten notes praising Catherine's composure. Others argued that no private grievance should ever have been allowed to overwhelm a state occasion. The debate spread because the moment was no longer only about Meghan's anger. It raised a harsher question about whether royal duty demanded too much suffering in silence. Harry watched a broadcaster call the incident the moment Charles chose monarchy over reconciliation. The Duke switched off the television, wounded by a verdict that reduced years of family pain to one decision. Meghan faced fierce online criticism and accepted responsibility for the outburst, but she rejected claims that her deeper feeling of exclusion had been invented. Charles then released the corrected rehearsal legend through a documented palace notice. The clarification proved that CP referred to the Ceremonial Planning Office, publicly removing Catherine from responsibility. Catherine declined to issue a personal statement. She told William that she wanted her return, not her tears, to be remembered. The prince agreed to let her conduct provide the answer. The apology had been delivered, and the record corrected. When the headlines faded, the final meaning would emerge through the boundaries each person chose to accept. The procession resumed, the route was completed, and the crowds eventually went home. But the monarchy that returned through the palace gates was not identical to the one that had departed. Charles had proven that family access would never outrank public duty. Catherine had discovered that composure did not require silent surrender. Meghan had confronted the cost of letting old wounds govern a new moment. Harry had finally seen neutrality become impossible. Charles confirmed the new boundary through a written palace directive. Harry and Meghan would hold no place in future state processions unless their participation was agreed well in advance and supported by explicit standards of conduct. Clear rules defining acceptable behavior during official duties. The king did not present this as revenge or permanent exile. He preserved private contact with his younger son, while separating fatherhood from ceremonial privilege. Love could remain, automatic access could not. Catherine emerged neither helpless nor triumphant. The princess had completed her duty, accepted Meghan's apology, and refused to let compassion mean absorbing blame in silence. A confidential account of their private meeting recorded that the Duchess acknowledged her mistake. Her pain over palace protocol had been real, but it did not justify accusing Catherine without proof. The apology could not erase the outburst, yet it marked a final acceptance of responsibility. Harry reached his own conclusion during a recorded conversation with Charles after the event. Protecting Meghan did not require defending every choice she made. The Duke accepted that loyalty without honesty would damage both his marriage and his family. William also stepped back. Once his wife's name had been cleared, the prince requested no further punishment. He had wanted accountability, not revenge. Charles stood alone after the final briefing and looked toward the empty route. The monarch had saved the ceremony, but authority could impose order without restoring intimacy. Catherine joined him before leaving. He apologized for the pressure she had been forced to carry. The princess answered that stopping the procession had protected her when it mattered, while resuming it had allowed her to reclaim the day. That answer became the verdict. Personal pain could be acknowledged, but it could not be weaponized during public duty. Titles offered visibility, not freedom from consequence. The halted procession did not heal the royal family. It accomplished something more honest. It ended the pretense that reconciliation could survive without boundaries, accountability, and respect. Charles chose duty. Catherine recovered her voice. Meghan faced the harm she caused. Harry accepted the price of divided loyalty. William protected his wife without demanding destruction. The monarchy moved forward, not united, but clear. And that was the lasting meaning of the day the king stopped a state procession. The crown could survive a broken ceremony, but no family could survive indefinitely without truth. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.